I tell my colleagues, we don't have to be so polished and scripted. People want to know like what's in here. They don't need like a Harvard Law School moot court answer, to everything, and they don't want to think that you're anything but authentic. And I think authenticity is probably the value that people are looking for the most in the news and in politics. I care a lot about a free press. My first job at 10 years old was as a newspaper delivery boy, and I did that for a company where my mom had worked when she was a kid, and my grandfather was a local editor of our newspaper in the Bay Area. And even in elementary school, I started a school newspaper, and I would write for my school newspaper all the way through high school and college. So even as somebody who now is critically covered, by the press, I understand like it's their role to do that, and I want to make sure that I do my own small part to make sure that the press is trusted and the press is independent.
You've also introduced legislation aimed at protecting journalists. What do you want audiences to take away from this film?
I want them to look at Anna and see that her doggedness and her fearlessness is what you want in a journalist, but she was doing it alone, and that's why she was able to be defeated and killed. So we need more Annas. And look, this woman, as she critically covered Putin, as he was lying to the Russian people about what he was doing in Chechnya, she was warned by her family that something could happen to her. She persisted. She was warned by her editor, who's played by Kieran Hines, that something could happen to her, and she persisted. She was poisoned and survived a poisoning, and yet she persisted. And then ultimately, because she was one of the few in the country that were willing to do that, she was an easy target. And so to me, the lesson is don't shrink, don't hide under the bed. In our country, is this president seeks to cut one-off deals with universities or law firms or even the media. Realize that you're stronger if you link arms and band together than if you are to be singled out.
I want to talk to you about some of today's headlines. Your colleague in Congress, Congresswoman LaMonica McIver, a Democrat out of New Jersey, facing an assault charge stemming from that skirmish outside an ICE detention center. What do you think of the charges facing McIver?
They're completely politically motivated. What is not discussed enough is that, one, McIver has a right to go unannounced to any federal facility. That's the law as a member of Congress. Two, is she was being denied that right, and she saw the mayor of Newark, who was with her, being arrested. She actually was let in. So after this skirmish between the police and the protesters, whatever they are alleging she did, if she was so bad and so violent, why did they still let her in and give her a full tour? So to me, this is Donald Trump and the Department of Justice trying to bully a member of Congress and to seek to deter members of Congress from doing our job. Just as I pointed out, with what happened in Russia and what's happening here in the United States, we can't just let her be on her own. It has to be clear that if you mess with one member of the family, and we're a family, the Democratic caucus, you're messing with all of us. And so we all have her back. We're all contributing to her to make sure that she has help in her legal defense fund. But more than that, we're showing her that, spiritually and, just as fellowship, we're there with her, and that we're not going to let her be on her own as she defends herself against these charges.
Lots of talk this week about former President Biden's health, especially with the release of a book by Jake Tapper, Alex Thompson, alleging that close aides to Biden helped perhaps conceal his cognitive decline while he was in office. Do you think that Biden's aides offered too much protection to the then president and ended up concealing his health?
Well, I wish him well in his health. And I have family members who are in cancer battles, and it's scary, and it will consume most of your time. You'll be thinking about that loved one. So I'm thinking of them. I didn't work in the White House. I didn't engage directly, with the White House. But what I can tell you is that in the 2 years that he was president and that we were in the majority in the House and the Senate, some of the most consequential legislation as it relates to jobs and infrastructure, the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS Act, what we did for veterans who are exposed to burn pits, and the Safer Communities Act to bring more resources to reduce gun violence. I mean, if you look at his record, it was a consequential presidency when he was in office and had the majority in Congress.
What grade would you give to Democratic leadership on their efforts to push back against President Trump?
Yeah, well, we have room for improvement, but we're seeing, I would say, all of our colleagues are stepping up and recognizing that this is not, to the voters, an approach of, are you far left or center left? It's more, are you bringing old tactics, to this challenge, or are you bringing new tactics? Old tactics would be sending, an 8-page, strongly worded letter to the administration. New tactics would be using everything we have inside the House procedurally to stop Donald Trump, and then going outside, to the No Kings rally on June 14th, to the town halls that we're doing. I'm going to Republican districts and doing town halls in their districts where they won't have a town hall. I've been to Anna Paulina Luna's district. I've been to Kevin Kiley's district. I'm going to Southern California to a district next month. So, are you willing to recognize this is not a 20th century challenge? This is an existential threat to democracy, and it's either revealing who should lead or who should leave.
Is that like a solid B, or are we talking some B plus?
I'm not a teacher. As I said, I've put my helmet on. I'm back out on the field, and I think people will judge me as doing everything I can right now to make sure that we get through and have the muscle and the vision, to survive this greatest threat to democracy in my lifetime.
I want to end with one final question, a much hairier and much lighter question for you. Democrats have been making headlines lately for growing facial hair, growing beards, and they're using a lot more colorful language, especially among the 2028 hopefuls. You seem to be ahead of the game in the beard bandwagon. You grew yours during the beginning of COVID, I remember. But I have noticed online you are using a lot more censored words, some F-bombs here and there. Is this part of a strategic move by Democrats, or what's the deal here?
That's how I talk, and that's why I've told my colleagues, give us your zero draft. Don't be so polished. The country has elected as president a felon, somebody who was convicted of 34 felonies. You can probably just be yourself, and if you make a mistake, that's okay. People would rather see the real you than what you think is the projection of a politician. That's not going to fly anymore.
Words of War is now playing nationwide. Congressman Eric Swalwell, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.